Hi everyone, this is Jack Nash. I'm reviewing Chris Ryan's The One That Got Away. I think it's a really, really good book. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. The link for it is down below if you want to get it on Amazon. So the plot is all about the classic story, which is of Bravo 20. This is where Chris Ryan, Andy McNab and 6 other UK operatives went into Iraq in 1991 in the first Gulf War to look and destroy fibre optic cables to prevent Saddam's Scud missiles. This is all about they actually get compromised in Iraq, and it's all about the escape. The positives, the things I really liked about this book were the modesty of Chris Ryan. Actually, the way he not only his character, which is obviously he plays himself, but the way he writes about himself. He never says he's the best. He never says he's the greatest. He never said he was the strongest. But he has gone down in history as one of the longest ever escape and evasion. I think it's over 300 kilometers. The only negatives I'd say would be the character development, because you don't really learn a lot about any of the other people in the mission. You only learn about Chris Ryan, but what you do learn about Chris Ryan is really interesting, and you would want him to go a little bit further into that. So if there's anything I'd say which was a slight negative, is that you don't learn a lot about the people, but is there a lot to learn about these, secret soldiers, if you know what I mean? So if I go on to the scoring, so I like to score them out of 7 categories, and that's how I got to my 7.5 out of 10. So the plot, I'd say, is an 8 out of 10. I think it's a really good plot, really interesting, it's truthful, it's so harrowing, and it's amazing the amount of human endurance somebody can actually take. The characters, like I said earlier, was the only slightly downer, which I'd give a 6 out of 10. The action, it's not a firefight through the whole thing, but what is there is very interesting and gripping, and being able to read it. The action's is really interesting, and genuinely quite nerve-wracking at some points. So the realism, I gave it a 9 out of 10 because I think there are a couple of disputes about the Bravo 20. I mean, I've seen some YouTube videos of and some documentaries about people dismaying it and dismaying Andy McNab and stuff like that, but it did happen. I mean, there's too many people who say it does happen, but how true the little facts and little niggles are. I mean, it was a long time ago. He spent 10 years reading this, waiting to read this book, write this book. It was as complex as I'd want it to be. It's quite simple. There are some terms which were a little bit of a struggle, but the way he writes is very fluid, and it's very enjoyable to read, and it's very logical. So I gave that a 7 out of 10. I gave it for the category of gripping, so how much you want to turn the pages on it. I gave it a 9 out of 10 because I thought at some points you just really want to know what happens to every person and what happens next. And I remember staying up so late watching, really wanting to watch it, read it. Really wanted to find out what happens next. And finally, on the tradecraft sense, even though you do learn quite a lot of tradecraft about what they do and how they do it and how they operate, it's not as in depth as some other books which I've read. So that's where it comes down. I only gave it a 6 on tradecraft. So if you like my review, there'll be plenty more on my channel. Next week I'm doing American Sniper by Chris Kyle, so that should be quite interesting. Again, if you want to have a read of this book, which I highly recommend, it's 7.5 out of 10. I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it. It makes you want to turn the page over and over again, and it's a really good counteraction. If you've read Bravo 20, then it's a really good counter view of Bravo 20, because it's not like they don't not like each other, Andy McNab and Chris Ryan, but they do. There's little twinges there of jealousy and pangs of not being completely best mates, which obviously that when you work with someone you're not going to be. And finally, so if you do want to read it, the links are down below, and if you want to send me an email or a suggestion, you can send it to actionbookreview@gmail.com, or send me a message or leave a comment below. Please subscribe and like the page. Thank you very much. Cheers. Done.